because that's all they talked about, and it trains you when people are just talking about death. I didn't realize it was so draining. I hated going into the meetings. I hated talking to the doctors because they were so pessimistic. But God gave us the strength to face them. And there was one time in particular, about 7 days, after he was born, it was a critical moment where, he was facing getting another hemodialysis. And they have never done this twice on a baby before. And they said, we don't want to do it, we don't recommend you doing it, and we're against you doing it because we think he might die. But the fact is, his ammonia was going up so high he was going to die anyways.
Right.
And they, at that point, they didn't tell us, because they can't tell us what we can do, but they basically indirectly told us it's time to stop. It's time for y'all to just, basically shut this chapter and let him go on. And we prayed and we said, God has not told us to stop yet, and we're not stopping. We had set certain parameters, like do not resuscitate. If his heart stopped, we said we don't want you to do any type of extra stuff that start his heartbeat. If he stopped breathing, let him go. We did set boundaries, but we told them we did not want them to stop yet. At that point, after he had that, that's when every day after that, he started improving. I mean, you couldn't even, every day he's just started improving after that point. To the point that they had to rethink everything they said. They had to, it's almost like they had to regroup, and everybody was looking crazy. They were, at that point, they were scared to say, they would not say anything else as far as what they expected, because everything, it's like everything the doctor said, God would prove him wrong.
And now I know that the whole purpose of me becoming a nurse was to take care of my own child. Joshua, as the common cold, any type of sickness would put him back in the hospital. We lived on the edge. We were hysterical, sleep deprived, trying to keep him alive.
So about a month prior to the liver transplant, they did find an organ. So they called us in that day. They prepped Joshua all day, and they, had us doing everything we supposed to do, getting ready, prepping us. And the doctors were actually, in flight to go get the liver from. They won't tell us, the family, they won't even tell us the location. All they say is the doctors, are going to get the liver. So we're waiting, and a doctor comes in, and she has this look on her face, and we knew something was wrong. She said, I hate to tell you, but the family has decided not to give the organ. We don't know why, but they just basically said they didn't want to go through with it.
They pulled the consent.
They pulled the consent. It was, I was real devastated because one, part of me, I would have preferred to go that route, because then I could be there to help support Jocelyn going through with Joshua, versus her having to deal with me being cut on and him being cut on. So that was a difficult day. I mean, I can't say it was one of those days that, I was pretty down. She was a little bit more optimistic, because the good thing is I was always the backup plan anyway. So, we still had me, and, so we went forth with it, and I got to admit, during that time, it was real, my emotions was up and down from, the point I knew I was a match up until the transplant, because, I was a lot nervous about coming through and making it, because they did tell me, it's a surgery, you could die, other things could happen, we can't guarantee anything. And that stuff play on your emotions. So I was nervous. I've never felt like that before, but it was no way I was turning back. I mean, regardless of how I felt, I knew I was going to go through with the process, even if it meant I died. So.
And I remember telling Darren, he was saying that he felt like he was going to die. He started getting the insurance policy straight for me and the family for him to die. And he said, I'd rather the kids be with you And he said, I'll do it. I'd rather for me to go. He said, so he's making sure that we will be taken care of if he died. And I told him, I said, Daryl, you know, I can't stand, I already know we have the possibility of losing my son, but I don't want to lose you. I said, if you really feel like you are going to die, then don't do it. I said, don't do it. But I said, but you know what? I believe that God brought us this far. I believe that God is going to take us on through. And I said, it's not a coincidence that the airplane was turned around. I said, because we know that God is in the midst of this. We knew then that God was in the midst of it. We said, that's not the liver for Joshua. And who knows? Who knows if that liver would have worked? Because although we would have gotten the liver, Joshua still could have died. But we knew that Dad was a perfect match. And it's not coincidence also that he was the epitome of health. Daryl is the child in his family that everybody teased about being so healthy. That's not a coincidence. We know that was God. We know, and now we know, okay, that's the reason why Daryl was so healthy for that day for Joshua. And at the same time, we also, you know, they were looking at us like, I can't believe that this family is not, you know, hysterical about losing that liver. But we knew that God had another plan. And we also knew that we had a backup plan. But our hearts did go out for other families who might have needed, you know, the heart and the lungs.
You know, I would always pray, Lord, give us this day our daily bread. And he would give me a scripture. I would share it with Jocelyn. And it would always get us through that day. And there was one particular day, this was still when he was in the hospital. You know, I prayed that same prayer because Joshua was having problems, you know, and it was Psalm 121. And so I said, Jocelyn, I want you to open up the Bible and read Psalm 121 and see what it says. As soon as she opened the Bible, the chaplain walks in, this lady, and she started saying, you know, I'm just here to, you know, offer my support. And, you know, she says, sometimes I like to sing to the children. It's a special song I like to sing, and it's actually a scripture. I like to sing it, and I sing it in Hebrew. And the song was Psalm 121. We couldn't believe it. I mean, you know, it was just amazing. So she sung that song in Hebrew, and it was the most beautiful thing we ever heard. I mean, you know, to hear it in its original language. And she sung it in English, but that Hebrew is just had a special, you know, you can't describe it.
So I remember saying, Lord, all I have is the faith of the mustard seed. That's all I have. Because, you know, there are times that we thought too that Joshua, he was going to die. But we said, that's all we have, Lord. That's all I have. So, and that's what brought us through too, having it, just a little bit of faith. A little bit of faith, something to hold on to. You know, just saying, well, Lord, you know, we're gonna leave it in your hands. And we had to let go and let God do what he needed to do.
Yeah. You know, none of it don't really make sense. Why us? Why Joshua? Why this? Why now? You know, with two kids, sometimes we think, man, why not the first kid? You know, when we didn't have the other two kids, because sometimes we feel like we have to neglect our other two kids just to focus on Joshua. And, you know, that hurts because, you know, but what do? And on those days, you just got to say, we know God has a purpose. It's not just for people to feel sorry for us, which we don't want people to feel sorry for us. It's not for people to, you know, pity us. It's not for us to pity ourselves and, you know, go into this depressed state. We got to make sense of this through God's eyes, and we know that he has a purpose. We know even Joshua's name was given to us by God. I mean, you know, I was praying for his name, and he gave it to me through a Bible study, his name, and confirmed it to me through 3 different other individuals. So I know his name was even given to me by God. So even, you know, it's like Jocelyn said, a lot of stuff is just not coincidental. I mean, you know, along the way, God has shown his mark on Joshua's life from beginning to up to the present time.
It's no way Joshua should have survived it, but he did. And kids with born with this disorder, like Joshua, they don't make it because of the degree of care that they need to maintain them. Now, although he survived that, living, taking him out of the hospital, we got through that part, but we had to live with OTC. Bringing him home, that's where we know too God was in the midst of it, because I'm a nurse.